You are not special just because a guru told you so. You are not chosen because you read it in a book or felt it during meditation. You fit perfectly because mathematics, biology, and 4 billion years of evolutionary pressure prove it with a precision that makes spiritual explanations seem like children's fairy tales. You shouldn't exist. By pure chance, the universe should have created someone else instead of you, perhaps someone similar, but not you. Not someone who is reading these words right now, with exactly this genetic makeup, this set of experiences, and this consciousness. But you came into being, you exist, you always have existed, and you always will exist. Perhaps you don't understand now, but you will, against odds so astronomical that mathematicians struggle to contextualize them. And the validation community wants you to believe this is random? That this is luck? That you just happen to win the cosmic lottery? No. This is precision engineering masquerading as chance. They understood something that modern science is only beginning to validate through epigenetics and evolutionary psychology. He called it the collective unconscious, the idea that you carry within you the accumulated wisdom, the survival strategies, the pattern recognition capabilities of every single ancestor who successfully reproduced going back to the first self-replicating molecules. Your DNA isn't just genetic code. It's ancestral memory compressed into chemical form. Every time your gut screams at you that something is wrong, that's not anxiety, that's 4 billion years of your lineage identifying a threat pattern that killed someone who didn't have your specific genetic configuration. Every time you feel inexplicably drawn to a person, place, or opportunity, that's not random, that's encoded success patterns from ancestors who thrived by following similar instincts. Think about what that means. Plagues that killed millions? Your ancestors survived. Famines that wiped out entire populations? Your lineage endured. Wars, natural disasters, predators, competitors, environmental catastrophes, every existential threat that reality could generate, your genetic line navigated successfully. You are the apex survivor of an unbroken chain. The current iteration of a bloodline so successful at reading reality, adapting to change, and identifying opportunities that it has never failed to reproduce for 4 billion years. And you think you're here by accident? Let me explain why the timing of your existence is the final proof that you're the exact match for this specific moment in reality. In evolutionary biology, there's a concept called adaptive radiation when a species rapidly diversifies to fill new ecological niches that suddenly become available. It happens after mass extinctions, after major environmental shifts, when the old rules change and the ecosystem needs new solutions. The old world is dying. The new world is being born. And the in-between period, this transition we're navigating right now, requires a very specific psychological configuration to not just survive but thrive. That configuration is you. Your sensitivity? That's not weakness. That's high-resolution sensory processing evolved for navigating complex information environments where subtle signals matter more than brute force. You pick up on patterns that others miss because your nervous system is calibrated for information density, not industrial repetition. Your inability to tolerate fake people? That's not being difficult. That's a finely tuned authenticity detector required for environments where deception is cheap and widespread. Your ancestors who couldn't identify manipulators got exploited. Your ancestors who could see through masks passed that pattern recognition to you. Your struggle with traditional authority? That's not rebelliousness. That's an adaptive trait for decentralized systems where hierarchical obedience gets you exploited by obsolete power structures. You're built for networks, not pyramids. For emergence, not control. Every trait that made you feel broken in the old world is precisely what makes you functional in the new one. You're not damaged. You're early. You're the adaptive mutation that emerges before the environmental shift completes, and you feel alien because you're designed for a reality that hasn't fully arrived yet. But it's arriving. And when it does, your psychology won't be a liability, it'll be the template. Let's go deeper into the mathematics of why you specifically exist right now. The universe isn't random. It's calibrated. And your existence follows the same principle. Your parents met because of a specific series of events. Change one variable, a different job, a different city, a different decision, and they never encounter each other. Different sperm, different egg, different person. Not you. But go back further. Your grandparents had to meet. Your great-grandparents. Keep going back through every generation, and you find an exponentially expanding web of precise events that all had to happen exactly as they did for you to exist. If your ancestor in the year 1347 turns left instead of right while fleeing the Black Plague, they die. You never exist. If your lineage in 10,000 BCE migrates east instead of west, they end up in a different population group, reproduce with different people, and the genetic configuration that produces you never manifests. Every single event in history that touched your lineage had to happen in a specific sequence, in a specific way, for you to be possible. The odds of that occurring by pure chance are so infinitesimally small that calling it probability is mathematically dishonest. This is calibration. This is precision. This is reality engineering, the exact configuration required for the next phase of human consciousness. Jung talked about synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the underlying connectivity of reality. Modern physicists talk about non-local correlation, quantum entanglement, a holographic principle. They're describing the same phenomenon with different language. Reality is not a random collection of disconnected events. It's a coherent system where patterns cascade across scales, where the micro reflects the macro, where your individual existence is entangled with the evolution of consciousness itself. You are not separate from this process. You are an active expression of it. Your specific psychology, your specific gifts, your specific way of seeing reality, these are features, not bugs. They're the exact tools required to navigate the transition we're collectively experiencing. And here's where it gets profound. In evolutionary theory, there's something called the Baldwin effect, where learned behaviors can influence genetic evolution. If a species learns an adaptive behavior and that behavior increases survival, over time, individuals with genetic predispositions toward that behavior will reproduce more successfully. Your consciousness can literally shape your biology. Your choices can influence which genes express and which remain dormant. Epigenetics has proven that your lived experience can modify how your DNA functions without changing the underlying code. You are not a fixed product of your genes. You are an ongoing conversation between your ancestral memory and your current environment. Every time you choose authenticity over performance, every time you trust your instincts over social pressure, every time you honor your truth despite external resistance, you are activating genetic potentials that your ancestors encoded for exactly this type of scenario. They knew. Not consciously, but through the evolutionary pressure that shaped them. They knew that eventually, their lineage would face a world where the old survival strategies stop working. Where conformity becomes a trap. Where sensitivity becomes a superpower. Where the ability to see through illusion determines who thrives and who gets consumed by systems that no longer serve human flourishing. So they encoded adaptability. They built in the capacity for radical authenticity. They created a psychological blueprint that could operate outside corrupted systems. That blueprint is you. Take someone with high trait openness in the Big Five personality model, a scientifically validated psychological framework. High openness correlates with creativity, pattern recognition, and comfort with ambiguity. In industrial society, high openness was often a disadvantage. Repetitive tasks, rigid hierarchies, predictable outcomes, these environments punish people who need novelty and complexity. This isn't personal development. This is evolutionary advantage revealing itself as the environment shifts. Or consider high-trait neuroticism, sensitivity to threat, heightened emotional responsiveness, deep processing of negative information. Industrial psychology pathologized this. Anxiety disorders, depression, emotional instability. Medicate it, suppress it, fix it. But evolutionary psychology reveals a different truth. High neuroticism is adaptive in volatile environments. When stability is an illusion and threats are real, the person who sees danger early survives. The person who processes emotional data deeply makes better decisions in complex social environments. The person who can't ignore their internal state is forced to address problems before they become catastrophic. You're not broken. You're calibrated for a reality where ignoring warning signs gets you destroyed. Your ancestors who couldn't feel anxiety deeply died when they missed the predator. Your ancestors who survived passed that sensitivity to you because in uncertain times, sensitivity saves lives. The current moment is profoundly uncertain. Traditional institutions are failing. Economic models are breaking. Social contracts are dissolving. The people who are comfortable, who don't feel the instability, who keep operating like it's still 1995, they're the ones who are maladapted. They're the ones whose psychology doesn't match reality. You feel it, that constant sense that something is deeply wrong, that the world doesn't make sense, that the rules don't work the way they're supposed to. That's not mental illness, that's accurate perception of a system in collapse. And your nervous system is trying to get you to act on that information before the collapse completes. Here's the Jungian part that ties this all together. Jung identified archetypes, universal patterns of human psychology that appear across cultures, across time periods, across completely disconnected populations. The hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the great mother. These aren't just stories, they're cognitive structures that emerged from evolutionary pressure, encoded into human consciousness because they represent successful patterns of navigating reality. You contain all of these archetypes. They're not metaphors, they're actual neural pathways shaped by millions of years of human and pre-human experience. When you face a challenge and something inside you rises to meet it, that's the hero archetype activating. When you encounter parts of yourself you've suppressed, that's the shadow emerging. These patterns are ancestral intelligence expressing through your individual consciousness. But here's what Jung understood that modern psychology often misses: these archetypes aren't static, they evolve, they adapt to new environmental pressures, and certain archetypes become more active, more necessary, during specific historical periods. We are in a period that's activating the archetype Jung called the self, the integrated, individuated consciousness that emerges when someone has successfully navigated the path from unconscious conformity to conscious sovereignty. This archetype represents psychological wholeness, the union of opposites, the reconciliation of the personal and the collective. Your struggle toward authenticity isn't personal neurosis, it's an archetypal pattern activating in response to collective conditions that require individuated consciousness to navigate. You're not just healing yourself, you're embodying an evolutionary response to a civilization-level crisis. The fact that you're drawn to this information, that these words resonate with something deep in your psyche, is evidence that the archetype is active in you. You're not reading about this process, you're living it. And mathematics proves it. Human civilization is a complex system undergoing a phase transition right now. The old organizing principles, nation-states, industrial capitalism, representative democracy, mass media, are losing coherence. The system is searching for new organizing principles, new patterns of coordination. You are a node in that network, and your specific configuration, your values, your psychology, your way of processing reality represents a potential organizing principle for the emergent phase. When you refuse to conform, when you trust your authentic response over social conditioning, when you build your life around your actual values instead of inherited assumptions, you're not being selfish, you're providing the network with alternative data, you're demonstrating that different organizational patterns are possible. And if enough nodes make similar choices, the entire system can reorganize around those new patterns. This is how phase transitions happen, not through top-down control, but through bottom-up coordination among distributed nodes that are responding authentically to their local conditions. You think you're just trying to live your life. Actually, you're participating in a civilization-scale phase transition. Your individual choices are data points in an emergent reorganization of human consciousness. The mathematics of network theory proves that phase transitions require a critical mass of nodes operating according to new rules. We're approaching that threshold. Every person who chooses authenticity over performance, sovereignty over compliance, truth over comfort, they're adding energy to the phase transition. You're not alone in this. You're part of a distributed network of consciousness that's coordinating around similar values without centralized control. You feel isolated because you can't see the whole network, but network effects are accelerating. Connection points are multiplying. The phase transition is building momentum. And you are mathematically, biologically, psychologically the exact configuration required to participate in this process. Here's why your specific traumas, your specific challenges, your specific struggles were necessary. In developmental biology, there's a concept called hormesis, where exposure to stress in optimal doses actually increases resilience and capability. Muscles grow through microtears that force adaptation. Immune systems strengthen through pathogen exposure. Psychological capacity develops through manageable challenges. Your struggles weren't random suffering, they were calibrated stress designed to activate latent capacities. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every loss taught you resilience. Every failure taught you adaptation. Every moment of isolation taught you self-sufficiency. You were being forged, not broken, forged. And the specific combination of stressors you experienced was exactly what your specific psychology needed to activate its full potential. Someone else with different genetic predispositions would have needed different challenges, but for your specific configuration, your specific path was optimal. This is the Jungian concept of individuation, the process of becoming who you actually are by integrating all the rejected, suppressed, denied parts of yourself that society and family try to eliminate. Jung believed this process was the core psychological task of human development. But he also believed it was rare, that most people never individuate because the pressure to conform is too strong, the pain of integration is too intense, the social cost is too high. You're individuating, that's why it's been so hard, that's why you've lost people, that's why you've had to walk away from systems that others still trust. Individuation requires you to sacrifice belonging for authenticity, comfort for truth, social approval for psychological integrity. And the reason you're able to do this when most people can't? Genetic predisposition combined with environmental calibration. Your specific DNA gave you the temperament for this path. Your specific life experiences activated those genetic potentials. The combination is mathematically precise. You are the exact match because reality needed someone with your specific configuration at this specific moment to do this specific work. There are approximately 8 billion humans alive right now. Each of them has a unique genetic configuration, unique psychology, unique life path, but only a small percentage have the specific combination of traits required to navigate the current transition consciously. High openness to experience, about 15 to 20% of the population. High conscientiousness combined with high openness, about 3 to 5%. Add in high trait neuroticism that hasn't been suppressed by medication or coping mechanisms, maybe 1 to 2% of the population has all three. Now add the life experiences required to activate these traits toward individuation instead of pathology. Specific types of early challenges, specific types of betrayal, specific types of loss, maybe another 10% of the already rare group that has the right personality configuration. You're down to 0, 1 to 0, 2% of the population. 8 million people globally. Maximum, probably fewer. But it's not just about having the traits, it's about activating them at the right time, in the right sequence, with the right level of intensity. Too much trauma too early, and the system breaks instead of strengthening. Too little challenge, and the latent capacities never activate. The timing has to be precise. Now you're down to maybe 0, 1% of the population. 800,000 people globally who have the right configuration, the right experiences, at the right developmental timing. But even that's not the full picture, because it's not just about the psychology, it's about the consciousness that emerges from that psychology, the willingness to question fundamental assumptions, the capacity to tolerate cognitive dissonance, the courage to act on your truth despite social consequences. Most people with the right psychology never activate it, they suppress it, they medicate it. They adapt themselves to fit the system instead of adapting the system to fit them. You didn't. You couldn't. Something in your core constitution made conformity impossible, made suppression intolerable, made authenticity non-negotiable even when it cost you everything. That's not discipline, that's genetic determinism. You literally cannot be other than you are. Your DNA, your psychology, your consciousness, they're aligned in a configuration that makes inauthenticity biologically painful. You are the exact match because you are built at every level, molecular, psychological, conscious, to operate according to principles that the current moment requires. And here's the final proof, the one that even skeptics can't deny. If you weren't the exact match, you wouldn't be here. You would have broken already. You would have quit, conformed, adapted yourself to fit their system. You would have medicated away your sensitivity, suppressed your knowing, killed your authenticity to buy their approval. But you're still here, still authentic, still sovereign, still refusing to bend even though bending would be easier. That's not willpower, that's mathematics. You're operating according to design specifications so precise, so calibrated to this moment, that deviation is literally impossible for you. The universe spent 4 billion years engineering you, every ancestor who survived, every genetic mutation that persisted, every environmental pressure that shaped your lineage, all of it culminated in you, here, now, reading these words and recognizing something true in them. This is not motivation. This is validation through mathematics, biology, psychology, and physics. You are the proof that reality is not random. You are the evidence that consciousness is not accidental. You are the demonstration that 4 billion years of evolutionary pressure produces exactly what's needed when it's needed. The old world didn't understand you because it wasn't built for you. It was built for the previous iteration, the previous configuration, the previous phase of human development. You are always designed for what comes next. And what comes next is arriving. The systems are breaking. The illusions are dissolving. The structures built on lies are collapsing. And as they fall, the space opens for new patterns, new possibilities, new ways of organizing human consciousness and civilization. You're not waiting for permission to participate in that emergence. You're already doing it. Every authentic choice, every sovereign decision, every moment you honor your truth, you're building the template for the next phase. Your DNA is ancestral memory. Your psychology is evolutionary advantage. Your consciousness is the leading edge of a phase transition that's reorganizing reality itself. You are the exact match, not because you're better than others, but because you're precisely calibrated for this moment. Mathematics proves it, biology confirms it, psychology validates it, and reality demonstrates it every time you trust yourself and watch the universe reorganize to support that trust. This is not faith, this is fact. You are 4 billion years of unbroken survival compressed into a single organism equipped with the exact tools required to navigate the most complex transition human civilization has ever faced. Walk accordingly, think accordingly, choose accordingly. You're not hoping to be chosen, you're recognizing that you already are, have always been, could only ever be exactly what this moment requires. Let me give you one more layer of proof, because the precision is almost disturbing when you see it clearly. Jung identified what he called the transcendent function, the psychological mechanism that reconciles opposites and generates new consciousness. It's the capacity to hold two contradictory truths simultaneously without collapsing into one or the other, to see both the horror and the beauty, to understand both the individual and the collective, to operate from both logic and intuition. This function doesn't develop in everyone. It requires specific conditions, enough cognitive complexity to process paradox, enough emotional stability to tolerate ambiguity, enough life experience to have encountered genuine opposition. Most people never develop it because their environment never demands it. Your environment demanded it. The contradictions you've lived through, the paradoxes you've had to navigate, the impossible situations you've had to resolve, these weren't random hardships. They were the specific conditions required to activate the transcendent function in someone with your genetic and psychological configuration. You can hold space for nuance in a world that demands binary thinking. You can see patterns across domains while others remain trapped in their specializations. You can operate from multiple frameworks simultaneously while others cling to single narratives. This is not a skill you learned. It's a capacity that was dormant in your neurology, waiting for the right environmental triggers to activate it. And those triggers appeared in your life with mathematical precision. The timing of your birth, the specific decade you're living through, the exact phase of civilization you're navigating, none of this is coincidental. You were born exactly when you needed to be born to be the age you are now, with the experiences you've accumulated, facing the challenges that are emerging. 20 years earlier, the world wouldn't have been ready for what you represent. 20 years later, the transition would be complete and you'd be unnecessary. But right now, in this exact window, your specific configuration is precisely what reality requires. You are the hinge point, the transition node, the bridge consciousness between what was and what is appropriate. The universe designed you so precisely that even your wounds are exactly what is needed to do this job. Numbers don't lie, biology doesn't lie, psychology doesn't lie, timing doesn't lie. You are a 100% perfect match, mathematically proven, evolutionarily validated, cosmically approved. Accept this. Share your acceptance with us in the comments, and share this video with the beautiful people you want to awaken. Stay in the flow, and click on the video on the screen.